and beloved author of millions.
Welcome to Mazecast.
This is Mazecast.
Welcome to it.
So last time we talked about, well, I didn't talk much, but Greg and Vince put forward two different ways of looking at maze. One of them is a straightforward sort of puzzle-solving thing and how that can be frustrating. And Greg came up with a more poetic look at it in terms of maze as art rather than as a puzzle. So I thought that was interesting, and I can definitely relate to both. As I like maze art, I have one in my house, as you can see behind me.
That's why we need to like maze art. It's not the hours and hours of... Yeah.
We've exhausted everything that we're going to talk about, and Greg is just going to sing and make noises. Anybody else have anything to add?
All right, so I'm not certain I understand the two positions being contrasted here. I did watch the previous episode of Mazecast in which they were explained, but I watched it while I was falling asleep.
Ooh.
I
think I understand the position of maze having straightforward puzzles in it that are badly flawed in the sense that they're not things you could reasonably expect somebody to solve, as expressed by Vincent in his long blog post. But I'm less sure I understand the poetic interpretation that Greg was defending.
Well, I think that interpretation is hard to grasp in a way because it
that makes me feel better about not grasping it.
Yeah, well, it argues for it being difficult to grasp in the first place. Mm-hmm. I don't know that the two are contrary. Like that there were two of us talking, it kind of became a binary thing, but I don't think it necessarily was binary. I agree with. I don't really dispute anything Vincent's essay said. I just think that there is bad puzzles, but also more going on at the same time.
Now, is this related to White Raven's idea that maze has what he calls interpretive puzzles, which, as far as I can tell, is a term he's come up with that applies only to puzzles in maze with no other known examples?
I wasn't.
You might
thinking
be referring to Gentilian types of solutions where it's too removed from the actual clue to make sense to anybody but the person who came up with that.
Well,
right.
I'm thinking specifically, White Raven has expressed this about his solutions rather than Gentilian ones in particular. He said that maze has various sorts of puzzles in it, and that apparently the major undiscovered ones he thinks are interpretive puzzles, and that seems to mean things that make sense to White Raven, but aren't that clear to me.
So one of the examples of those would be like Room 26 and the rocket, right? The 3 rocket thing. Would that qualify as one? You guys agree?
Does he categorize it as that?
I think he does characterize that one as an interpretive puzzle. Because it's just a bunch of stuff in the room that all kind of comes together to evoke. I can't even remember what the details are, but it's
there's a bunch of things that could apply to space flight.
Sorry, Ben.
Yeah, room 26 was one of those rooms that had 2 numbers in it, and I don't remember what it looked like though, but I probably should know, but
it's the one that looks kind of like a theater with devils.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that one was dope.
Yeah.
I like that one. That was like my best friend. If if it asks me if it has like macadamia cookies, like they say maybe if I have some left.
I like that as that guy with the really tall hat.
It kind of seems like Vince's main problem is with people who, because we're trying to figure out door solutions in individual rooms, and so we know what the answer is, and so what people do is, including myself, is you know what the answer is, so you try to figure out stuff in the room that might be calling up something else, and then you go Google some stuff, and you think, oh, how can I get to that number, and here's something that relates to it. And it seems like Vince's main argument is that this is not a useful way to try to figure out what was in ways.
So I have a slightly different take on that, which is I like to imagine now Christopher Manson isn't giving us that much information about what he had in mind with Maze, but imagine if he were more cooperative about sharing that sort of thing, if he did publish like a document saying what all the intended puzzles in Maze were. How long do you think that document would be? How much would be on it? Like, how much per room? How many multi-room things? And looking at, like, the page that Into the Abyss has for room 26, there's, let's see, there's 7 bullet points, some of them very long and involved. I don't think that on this hypothetical design document of Manson's, all of that information would be on there. I think there would be less than that about room 26. I don't know. It could be. You could certainly have the position that there would be more than that. Like that, on what Manson had in mind, he has like 3 single-spaced pages about each of these rooms. It seems very unlikely to me, but we really don't know much about the process of making the book.
Right. I think it's a big part of the problem, or why it's been kind of difficult to figure out what is intended or not.
Yeah, and well, looking at some of these bullet points Into the Abyss, there's things like 3 real devils equals 3, 1 fake devil equals 0, 3 and 0 is 30, the correct door is 30, which to me seems like a good example of the sort of puzzle that Vincent was criticizing in his essay.
Yeah, that sounds like bullshit to me.
What do you really think?
No, I mean, that's just like, that's bullshit.
It is. No offense to Beck S., who has credit for that. I'm sure that Beck S. is just throwing out some ideas, doing some brainstorming, and it's good to get that information out there, but I don't think that was an intended thing on Manson's part. And if it was, then it kind of doesn't even matter to me if Manson intended that, because if that's the sort of thing he intended, then we have no realistic way to separate out the things he intended as solutions from just as many things or more things that look exactly like that but weren't intended.
Well, and I think you have to look at what intention means. Like, when you intend something, what part of your person is doing the intending? Because I do stuff all the time that consciously I did not intend to do, but I know that some part of the person that is me made it happen. And so, especially when you're getting into something like art, there's a lot of room for things to happen that are not really intended by the conscious mind. And that's what that was kind of like the crux of my discussion with Vincent last episode of Mazecast.com. It was...
Well, there's certainly things that are intended in Maze that aren't puzzle solutions. Like, so room 8, that's the bowling room. It has a lot of things that point to bowling. I think that's both true and clearly something Manson intended. But noticing this room's bowling related, when you notice that, you haven't solved a puzzle. You've uncovered something that's going on the page. But it just doesn't feel like a puzzle solution. And I think there may be a lot of things like that in Maze, more than we've found. I'm not sure if that would count as your poetic interpretation, just uncovering themes to the rooms.
But do you think it's possible he had a bowling theme in there for no other reason than that he likes bowling, or he just
sure. It could be that there's a bowling puzzle component to it. I don't think it would be something like like what was it? Number 11 is associated with bowling in some way, therefore take door 11.
Oh,
I wouldn't consider that to be a good. Barry, I'm getting some echo through you.
Oh, sorry.
What I wonder is why.
We're still getting there.
I'm still getting echo. But why can't it be both? Like there is this interpretive thing towards bowling, and it's still a shitty puzzle at the same time. Why can't it be both of those things? Does it have to be either or?
Well, I think it could be. I think there could be a shitty puzzle to it. I don't think it's that particular 11 one.
Uh-huh.
There might be cases where he made a puzzle that is possible to come to the same conclusions using different means. So in other words, he's got a bowl in the room, and so maybe if you don't get the bowling, you put the bowl in there so that maybe you'll get the bowling by looking at the bowl rather than the pin. God knows why, but maybe it's possible that he, we talk a lot about objects in the house doing double duty. Maybe it's the other way around too in terms of the puzzles. Like he meant for things to be read in multiple different ways.
you're really quiet, Alex. It's hard to hear you.
Sorry, how's that? How about now?
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you hear what I said though before?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Should be louder now.
I think it's true that he put a lot of redundancy into making it look like a bowling room. Sorry, I can't talk over you there.
Yeah, but there was a lot that went into making it look like a bowling room. But then, I think the problem is getting from bowling to 12, right? In that particular.
Right. Is it 12? Whatever number it is.
Yeah.
There's so much more in that room. There's a light switch. There's the picture of the clown or whatever. There's like all that other stuff that doesn't really relate to bowling at all. Or those like assists on the main bowling puzzle, or are they completely separate, or are they equal in value?
But I don't think there's a problem with having multiple puzzles in one room. Like I don't think anyone's arguing
Right.
problem.
Certainly could.
No, I mean, but like, how do you know if they relate to each other or not?
I think there's separate puzzles in that room. I do think that Greg said yesterday, on something Greg said yesterday, which is that, Manson was operating under constraints. He was operating under constraints of time and life and everything, and he didn't get to work on this forever and make it absolutely perfect. So some of the puzzles probably are going to be shitty, and there's probably going to be mistakes, and there are probably going to be problems that maybe we didn't think of. So, to evaluate each thing as though we have to find a perfect gem of a puzzle everywhere is maybe, I don't know, maybe that's misguided as well.
Yeah.
I mean, the question is, what is our goal, right? Are we just trying to figure out what he intended? Are we just trying to find interesting things? Are we trying to interpret it like you would interpret a poem and find your own stuff? Is that worthwhile? Ooh.
Okay, I muted him.
Sorry, Barry.
Barry, you have some words that you need to iron out.
Yeah, I think maybe if your speaker's pointing into your microphone or something.
Okay, well, he can't say anything, so we don't know what's going on with Barry. And that's a whole other puzzle that we could spend this cast trying to solve. And that would be fun.
I don't know. It seems like we already spend a lot of these casts trying to solve puzzles of audio software.
Right. But so maybe that's the problem with Maze is that it's a problem akin to a problem you might have with software.
that you need to just close the book and open it up again.
Yeah. Close the book, put it aside for a while, maybe eat some breakfast, and then go back and open it up again, and then it's gonna work.
I wish there was food in Maze.
You wish what?
I wish there was food in Maze. No food in Maze, not enough food. Too many animals, not enough food.
There really isn't a lot of food. That's true, and I would if you're in the loop for too long, you might get really hungry.
You could eat a bird or an alligator.
But then you don't really have any tools in maze either, other than your ability to choose a door. And so how could you, like, kill the bird or kill the alligator?
You could just pick up the axe or,
And then with
but then you wouldn't hear it at 39, so you'd be out of luck.
In room 3, there's those pots. We've been assuming they have water in them, but what if they have delicious soup?
And there's a pantry in the window.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that the bathrooms and the food and everything is kind of in between. It's between the puzzle rooms.
So they have, like, snacks when you go out of the room.
It's like a snack table, some wine and cheese.
The backstage area.
Yeah.
It's pretty great then.
Keep the guests happy.
I don't think I want to solve the maze. I just want to be in the maze forever.
I've got good news for you. We're not solving this.
Anyway, I don't know if it's useful to just to do too much discouraging of people trying things and talking about things. Because even if you play something shitty, it might spark something better in somebody else, or might build something for someone else.
Yeah, I agree with that, but I don't think it was bad that he wrote that essay or argue the point he did, because that gives you another, like, thing to think about when you're doing other things.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you, and I think that he had 2 points for how you could think about a solution or trying to come up with a solution more productively that I think is helpful to keep in mind.
Yeah, well, I took his essay as it doesn't seem like it would discourage people about maze any more than material that's already out there would, because you can look at, like, the published riddle of the maze and see that it's a terrible puzzle that nobody could reasonably solve. You could get dissuaded based on that, but Vincent's essay is talking about ways that we can take this knowledge that maze has terrible puzzles and use that to actually make some more progress. Like, look for puzzles that are terrible in those ways, and abandon puzzles that seem terrible in ways that wouldn't have been produced by Manson.
And I agree that that's useful, in that, but my idea about all of that is that the final room was more consciously created by Christopher Manson than the other rooms. I think, like, he kind of was able to flow a little more with some of the other ones, and I don't actually think might have. I think there were chunks where he had to also think consciously. And kind of like, it was just kind of like this thing where he kind of like did it in this very conscious way. But the ones where the more conscious he was, the worse the actual solution was, because he's not a great puzzle creator. But the places...
You gotta give him a break. He wrote in the 80s.
At least he tried.
He tried really hard. But I'm kind of going along with Vincent's thesis. He's not a great puzzle creator at the conscious Christopher Manson. So the one who is, like, thinking it out and mapping it out and doing that. That's good for making the bones of the maze, but the flesh of the maze, I think, is more powerful when he allows some other part of himself to go forward and put some elements in there. That's kind of the counter thesis I'm putting forth.
Yeah, Practical Alchemist is a better technical puzzle, but it's nowhere near, got the allure of maze. And it's not because it's a better puzzle. It's more, well, I don't know, like, do you guys prefer Practical Alchemist, or do you agree with me that it's a better, more solid puzzle that can be solved and you actually have to give the answers?
So I've only skimmed through it a bit, but yeah, it looked like a much more straightforward puzzle.
Yeah, it's a single puzzle. It's like a single puzzle of one type. It's in book form. It's 45 pages long or whatever, but it's just
45.
So it's easier to perfect one single puzzle than a huge book full of puzzles.
Yeah. So Greg, I'm not certain I understand exactly what you're saying about the power of the unconscious parts of Maze. Like when you say that that part's more powerful, do you just mean in terms of presenting interesting, compelling images for us to look at? 'Cause I certainly don't think that the designed parts of Maze contain good puzzles in them, or even things that I would call puzzles. But
Well, I don't think
certainly they have appeal beyond that aesthetically.
I don't think the goal is creating something that would fit the definition of puzzle necessarily. I think there is like a sort of definitional like problem here, in that we are trying to look for, or there's because the book says it's a puzzle book, you have to like think about everything in the book in terms of whether it's a good puzzle or not. I think because puzzle is a certain genre. So it'd be like if you had like a like something that you found wonderful of any other genre is generally wonderful because it's not totally of that genre.
Yeah, it's like eating your TV dinner and saving the TV dinner box for later.
Right. Or if you like had a TV dinner and it was wonderful because it didn't taste like a TV dinner. You know, like one.
It's just a little bit outside the category.
Yeah, don't get too outside of TV dinner.
And where Maze goes outside the category, I'm guessing, are the places where he constructed it outside of the conscious mind that was trying to design a puzzle. Because I don't think that he was a very good puzzle designer, because whenever he was trying to actually design a puzzle, he didn't put himself in the shoes of the solver. Right. You know, and a lot of times, like someone who's really good at their craft in a particular like medium, they're able to like see through the eyes of the person who's going to view it, right? Whereas Maze, I think a lot of it it's not from that perspective. It's very much from this this font of him just kind of creating, and the intention of the individual is not the same as the intention of the conscious part of that individual. Like what an individual does is not just like what you decide to do as a conscious mind.
Well, there's consciously intended material in Maze outside of the scope of the puzzles in it. Like Manson was trying to make nice-looking art for the pages as well, and I think we can all agree he succeeded at that.
Yeah. And he put a lot of his like love of different architectural styles in there, and so that's one thing to kind of filter out when you're trying to solve Maze. Is he just doing this because he likes this architecture and he's trying to put that in the book?
And a lot of times I feel like you want to interpret the text in some way because it seems stilted or odd. I think a lot of times he's just using that style for artistic reasons. He's just choosing to have the guide speak in a certain way or whatever. And you say, oh, that's a really word to use. But I think a lot of times it's just an aesthetic choice.
Yeah. Right. That's where I think I think more attention needs to be paid to the words, because Maze is not the pictures, right? It's like half the pictures, but the words are equally important. And Manson, as a visual artist, is going to put more in the visuals that are maybe extraneous than he might in the words. Or if there's something extraneous in the words, like we know why he would put extraneous things in the visuals, right? Because he's interested in architectural things, and it might look more compelling. But I think mainly it's, there's not a lot there that is not like architectural or just kind of interesting or supporting of the overall feel of the room. Whereas verbally, he's not a writer, but so everything in the words is there for a reason. So it's that doesn't mean it's all like pointing towards a puzzle, but then you have to think about what the reason is. If the reason's not for a puzzle, then is it to just make it kind of creepy, or or what? And you need to ask yourself that question when if you're trying to like figure out what's going on in the maze. And I think a lot of solutions and a lot of talk about maze kind of like leaves that part out. But that's really half the book.
Yeah, I think that's true. And I don't know how much people have been influenced by White Raven or not, but he has
A lot.
said most of, not many people in this hangout, I suspect, but he has said that most of the puzzles are in the art. So I don't know if that's why people have sometimes neglected the text. Or if maybe it's, I don't know, this is the whole puzzle point system, right? Like if you're all interested in that, and if White Raven doesn't think stuff is in the text, even if you find stuff in the text, he's not going to reward you. So
He still hasn't given me a puzzle point for recognizing the Cayman in room 44.
I love that. I love it. It's so good.
Yeah, that was like, I don't know that I can claim that's something Manson intended, but I think it fit together nicely as a fan theory.
It was good. I mean, for a guy who he clearly loves wordplay, I mean, it's a guy who clearly loves wordplay. He did two whole books about it. It would be strange if there wasn't a lot of wordplay in this book. And even if a lot of the stuff in the images, together with the text, if there isn't a little joke. Like I feel like Cayman, that could be an intended little joke in his part, like just something he put in sound amusing. And there's no reason not to point that stuff out.
And we have wordplay in room 1, which is one of the more clearly intended proposed solutions involving the text.
I like room 1. It's my friend. It's not as friendly as room 26, but still a good friend. You know? It's like the first room. That's what draws you in. That's why it was so good.
It's got some nice light and shadow. And I'm kind of skeptical that there's very many puzzles to maze. It sort of like I'm not certain that the loop and trap rooms really have much in the way of puzzles to them.
Even though Manson apparently has said that there is.
Well, there's no escape.
Yeah, we know about a couple like that. But I don't think that in the hypothetical document explaining everything Manson tried to put into Maze, I'm not sure that there would be a puzzle for every room.
Really?
Yeah, I think there may be rooms in the book that just don't have puzzles. He just threw in a bunch of objects he wanted to draw to make it look like there was a puzzle there.
That's interesting.
I think everything along the path, the main shortest path, I think every room there has some puzzle going on to it. Beyond that, I'm not sure there would need to be. I think there could just be rooms that are just red herrings.
Well, so the assumption we were going under is that, or that the maze community is going under, is that the non-path rooms are just trying to get you back to the path, right? As possible. But I think we kind of have 3 different criteria we're trying to work under. One is Manson's intention, right? Another is White Raven's intention.
Right.
Yeah.
And another is just like kind of what you as an individual can glean from the book.
Yeah.
Like the things that kind of go outside of those intentions. And so to talk about the book, you kind of have to first, you can either, in order to talk about the book, you have to kind of get on the same page as to what intention you're going under, or what intention is important to you. I'm kind of in the third camp myself, for the most part. I also going towards Manson's intention. I think that's interesting as well. I don't really care that much about White Raven's intention, or except in that he's communicating with Manson purportedly, but I don't think that I when I found myself trying to like think about the book in his terms, it became less interesting to me. So you kind of have to think, like, when you like say something about the book, you have to also say which intention you're trying to like move towards.
I think that's a really good point.
Hey, sorry, video was going to cut out for me, so I've rejoined.
Nope.
Hopefully it'll
I think
work
he's
better now.
We're glad to have
I think
you.
White Raven is looking at it from more of a competitive point of view, in the sense that I just treat it as a book that I'll pick it up one day and I'll pick it up and just open it to a random page and try to solve just that page, and then put it down for a couple of days. Maybe I would solve it, maybe I wouldn't. Most of the time I wouldn't, but I mean, in that respect, I think that's why White Raven sort of rubs people the wrong way, is because his approach is more on the competitive side, as if it were still 1985 and the competition we're on, and he's like the guy who's saying, yes, that clue is correct, you get X amount of points towards the prize that you're going to win or whatever. I mean, there is no prize in this case, but I think that that's sort of how he's treating it.
Well, the prize is you get a puzzle point. And I would, like, even though I don't want to participate in it, I think what White Raven is doing is great. I actually, if the idea is to have more people explore Maine, I think what he's doing is more drawing people in than turning them off. Like, I was really drawn in by the Abyss for a long time.
Yeah.
But then, I kind of came to a different point where I didn't want to explore the maze with that. I wanted to do, in a different way, because I didn't agree with his viewpoint of it. But that doesn't mean that what he's doing isn't awesome. I'm a big supporter of White Raven, but I don't want to play that game. I want to play a different game. But I don't know that I would have gotten to the point of playing the game that I want to play if it weren't for White Raven's game. And so I think he serves a very, in that site, it serves a very like important thing. It's just like you have to know when not to worry about it. Like when to be like, this solution, I believe in it, and it doesn't matter if I got a puzzle point for it or not. And just go forward.
Yeah, I tend to get too worked up about that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think the better perspective is that Maze Contest ended many years ago. It's not a solvable puzzle, but still an interesting book, and it would be nice to pick
I
over
think
it and
it's
figure out
solvable.
what was intended.
I'm sure it's solvable.
Yeah, I think
Well, Barry, I have to say, I think your approach to Maze has been much more productive than what anyone else has done, in that we've gotten some good art out of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Barry's like approach would be like the third perspective, where you're just kind of like making what you can for yourself from Maze, right? It's like trying to determine Manson's intention, trying to determine what works for yourself, and then trying to determine what White Raven has. And like Barry's in the second one very well.
Yeah, and I'd say it's probably more in keeping with what Manson would have wanted. Maze is a creative work itself.
Yeah, and I think like from the little we've gotten from him in terms of comments, I think he was trying to go that way, where you're just kind of intuiting in a way, and that's where like we get this hang-ups with like Maze versus puzzles, because puzzles you don't intuit.
Yeah.
Puzzles you solve, puzzles you get in this like analytical way, you figure out a puzzle. Whereas I think a lot of Maze wasn't intended in that way. And that's one, why they're crappy puzzles. And two, why they're maybe not puzzles. Like maybe the problem is that we're trying to think of them in terms of puzzles. But it makes sense that we would because it's presented as a puzzle.
I think that if I were Manson, I'd be glad and proud that people were so interested in this book of mine that came out 30 years ago. But at the same time, I'd be a bit embarrassed, maybe sheepish about them uncovering the quality of the puzzles that were in it, that were in this thing that I made 30 years ago.
Yeah, especially that typo or that dropo.
Yeah, the 1 times 1 equals 2 or whatever it is.
The one with millennium being spelled with one M.
Oh,
with
yeah,
one M.
right.
I think the 1 times 1 equals 2 is.
Yeah, that
I
could
don't
be
know what that is.
intentional.
Seems to be intentional, that one.
Yeah, as far as I know, nobody's really worked out a satisfying explanation for it, but there could very well be one.
Yeah, it could just be like the parody of the cross and the plus sign and the multiply sign. I mean, they're close. So
Yeah, maybe it's some 45-degree rotation thing.
yeah.
He just had his big turnaround lately. I kind of feel like we could do like an online quiz for people who like maze. We'll answer questions about how you approach maze, and then we can like give you a personality profile.
Which Mazecast person you are?
What kind of mazer are you? Are you a Ben? Are you a Greg? Are you a Vincent? Are you an Alex? I think that's my niche, is just doing stupid option things.
That sounds pretty good to me.
I want to know if I'm me or not.
I know!
Or if I'm Mary.
Well, it's hard being me, but it's probably hard being other people too.
It is, but I always wonder if I'm me or if I'm Barry. No.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I just want to go back to CBS because I had to turn off my thing for a second when you guys were talking about it. And just say that I think that it's. I agree with Greg, and obviously I'm still participating. One of the few that's sort of still kind of avidly trying to participate and find out his answers. And I think that's a good thing, is attracting people and keeping people interested, and the competitive aspect of it can be good. But also, it adds another layer where you're, or at least I'm not always evaluating things based on what I think, but based on, is this what Raven's going to think? Which has sort of become the game that I'm playing. But I don't know, is that negatively tainted the way that I'm thinking about this book?
I don't think it does, actually, because like when I come up with a new like interpretation of a room or a group of rooms, instead, like, I'm not going to White Raven for validation, but I still like present it to other people. Like, I'll present it in our chat, and like in the same way. Oh, sorry, I didn't use my microphone. I'm still like, you're just looking for some validation or agreement. And all White Raven has done is he's made it very like definitive what he's going to agree to or not.
Right.
He's like made it more like kind of stark, but that doesn't make it any different than what I would do as someone who doesn't use Into the Abyss.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I would just like present whatever I thought of to someone else, and so like maybe a third step is you could just like think what you think and not talk to anyone about it. But
you could present it to Vincent and see if he thinks it's stupid or not.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing that makes White Raven that particular an authority on this.
Right. The only like thing that makes people think White Raven is like kind of the speaker on this issue is that one, he has some connection to Christopher Manson,
Right.
And and just one, he has some connection to Christopher Manson.
Well, I sent Christopher Manson a Christmas card, so maybe I should be the authority on Maze.
You'd be a great authority. I would get things for you, and you could give me puzzle points or not. Like, Like,
I'm awarding you 10 puzzle points for suggesting that idea.
He has the most puzzle points of us all now.
Yep. Eat it.
Speaking of which, I think that a good project for this coming year would be to try to convince White Raven or Manson somehow to do the Ask Manson thing on air.
I would love to see some sort of live video thing from Manson.
Wouldn't that be amazing? Why
Yeah.
would he do that? He should do that once, one time only.
Well, the problem is I don't think we could do that. Because
Well,
it
but
involves
it just takes Manson's acceptance, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if he were up for it,
I don't think he's up for it.
well, maybe we can convince him it would be great.
I think it's worth trying. I mean, I don't know if we try to convince White Raven to try to convince him, or if we try to convince. I mean, he's obviously not very open to communicating with anyone.
Yeah,
Right.
that's the problem.
So,
And I don't think White Raven would really want this to happen, since he seems to have a vested interest in keeping Manson information secret.
Yeah.
yeah, I think
He's kind of set himself up as controlling access to claims about what Manson intended.
Even if he recorded the conversation and we could just hear what he's actually saying, rather than just have this sort of lame
That's
math.
true, because we have all these paraphrases, and we're trying to guess at how much Manson really approves of the interpretations White Raven's come up with.
Yeah.
It's a confusing situation for us all.
yeah.
Where else go? Yeah.
I know. Well, since he started this call, I think it can't end without him pressing the button to end it. So until he comes back, we're stuck.
We're stuck here forever. Room 24. He was having some trouble with his computer earlier, actually. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
I always thought of room 24 as the win condition. You get
Really?
there and then you won. If people say, "Hey, I'm on room 24 and there's no links," I'll say, "Well, then you won. I mean, good job."
You don't have to do maze anymore. You won.
Yeah,
Or you get to live in the maze forever. You won.
yeah.
And there's all these people looking at you. That's great.
Then you're looking at them,
Right. You're just looking at each other. That's like love. That's what
and I don't know if there's that many people behind you either. So I mean, there's that.
yeah.
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 Climb every mountain.
Why did you stop?
Were you hoping we would join in?
Yeah, it was.
Well, you only gave us one line.
I think we're done, Alex. If you want to end it.
Done.
Yeah.
A lot of talking. And
And Manson, if you're watching this, I know I've been critical of some of the puzzles, but I do like maze, and I would like to see you do some sort of maze video where you talk about designing maze.
I think you have really nice eyes.
Or anything, really.
Yeah, if you have thoughts about life in general, that's good too.
Mm-hmm. I think you could be like my dad.
In what way?
That he could like be like, this is the way men do this, and like I could then hear him and know that, oh, men do this way. Okay, thanks, Dad.
That is how I imagine his voice. Yeah.
Yeah. And like maybe if I stub my toe or something, you give me a hug.
Uh-huh.
Just gonna cuddle over that. That would be pretty.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that
That'd
sounds
be pretty
reasonable.
dope.
I think we would all like to cuddle with Manson.
Yeah. Let's all give Manson a hug, and then maybe Alex will end this. Let's give him a virtual hug right now.
Alex even hear us right now?
I don't think he is.
He seems a little unresponsive.
Yeah, I think the video gig from him is actually a still image.
Yeah, I'm hearing this for sure.
I think maybe that's a cardboard cutout in front of his camera.
It can be a long hug. That's okay.
Yeah, that's all right. Anyway, I don't know. I've tried to convince Vince to talk to White Raven about this because I think White Raven has a special little fondness for Vince. So I think if anyone has a shot at convincing him. What are you doing?
I was trying to hug Christopher Manson, but convince is like with
You're trying to,
your.
you're trying to hug the camera? Like,
Yeah, like
no,
trying
this isn't really, that doesn't look like a hug.
well, how can I do it better?
I don't know. Maybe hug yourself. Like, one of these.
Maybe like this.
This is the warmest, fuzziest Mazecast ever.
Yeah, I'm not sure that this is going to convince Manson to connect with the fans.
He's gonna be
Yeah, but at least he tried.
I really would love a hug right now. He may not know it, but I think he would really love a hug.
Yeah, Manson, we just want to hear from you about what it was like making Maze, and I'd like an estimate about how many pages long your private document about all the puzzles in Maze would be.
And what's sex all about? Could you?
maybe like a graph average puzzle per room.
Yeah, maybe do that before the sex talk with Greg.
How do I get girls to like me, Chris?
Oh my god. Getting weird fast. Well.
You're saying that, like, you're leading up to ending the episode. I can't do that without Alex here.
Episode. I really wanted to end the episode.
We're just so trapped in here.
Well,
Like, what if we
Yeah.
just all leave? What would happen then?
I think that ends it. I'm not sure.
Or would it be blank?
I mean, that's got to end it.
Think?
Maybe. All right, I'll rage quit first. Geronimo.
Okay, I'm back.
Oh, what
All
happened?
right, you're just in time for the closing ceremonies.
Oh, yeah.
By which I mean it's time to take this off the air.